And don't get confused about S.I.Rs, Special Intensive Revision, BLOs, what's happening on the ground. See, viewers, the debate on S.I.R is becoming too technical, and I just want you to know this, because I have a feeling that you're not getting into the S.I.R debate because you think it's too technical and it doesn't matter to you. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if more than half the people watching this video don't even know the full form of S.I.R. That's a reality in our country. It's an unfortunate reality, but it's a reality. I want the future generations of this country, I want Gen Z to know about what's happening to their country. I want Gen Z to know that their country will be taken over by foreigners. I want Gen Z to be clear about the reality, about what will happen to this country if we allow any more infiltration into this country. And so I'm addressing Gen Z, and I'm addressing all the younger people, most of all, through this video. And I'd like to begin by saying that I come from the state of Assam. And today, a large part of Assam, the state I come from, has been taken over by foreigners. There are many districts, including the district where my family comes from, which has become 75% Muslim. 75% Muslim. Now, does this mean I'm anti-Muslim? Absolutely not. But this Muslim population, ladies and gentlemen, in the western part of Assam, is not the Assamese Muslim population. They are not Indian Muslims. The majority of them are infiltrators from Bangladesh. Now imagine this, viewers. Probably many of you don't even know about this. Now imagine this, and it's all happening close to an area which we call the Chicken's Neck, which is a 22-kilometer, a little bit more than that, maybe wide area which connects the northeastern part of the country to the rest of India. And imagine how vulnerable that area will become if the demography becomes something which is artificially created. And therefore now relate this to what Sarjil Imam said.
5 लाख लोग हमारे पास हो ऑर्गेनाइज्ड, तो हम हिंदुस्तान और नॉर्थ ईस्ट को परमानेंटली कट कर सकते हैं। पर परमानेंटली नहीं तो कम से कम 1 महीने के लिए तो कट कर ही सकते हैं।
The anti-national Sarjil Imam, when he said that the chicken's neck, we must break it. The chicken's neck, according to him, he said, belongs to the Muslim. Let's block it. Let's block it. Let's stop people moving across the chicken's neck. Was it an individual speaking in a haphazard way? No. Or was it part of a larger conspiracy against our great nation? Ladies and gentlemen, all I want you to have is your eyes wide open. I do not want you to be in a situation where you're living in your gated communities, your children are going to fantastic schools, you live in a tinted glass view of the country, you travel across in planes, you go to good restaurants, you live in the urban centers, and you believe everything's all right, nothing's going to ever change in this country. If you think so, then look at what is happening today in various parts of the world where there has been too much illegal immigration, where there has been too much infiltration. Look at what's happening in large parts of Scandinavia. Look at what's happening in Sweden. Look at what's happening with the rise of the Reform Party, the far-right Reform Party in the United Kingdom. And ask yourself, what were the circumstances which made local populations there suddenly so insecure that they are going to lose their language, their culture, their way of life, and they are going to lose their country itself? It's because these woke people, they just allowed everybody to come in. They had open borders. They allowed everybody to come in. And today, the people from these parts of the world have suddenly realized we've allowed too many infiltrators to come in. Now we are losing our way of life, so they've begun reacting. That is the context in which we must today, in our country, have an open discussion on infiltration. Infiltration, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Kharge, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Vadra, Kani Modi, so on and so forth, Tejasvi, confuse you about S.I.R. It's not about S.I.R. S.I.R. is only a manifestation of the bigger problem. S.I.R. is an attempt by the Election Commission to clean up the electoral rolls which have been infiltrated by infiltrators. A lot of people not from India have got into these roles and are voting in our country. This country is ours. Bharat, Bharatiyon ke liye hai. India is for Indians. India is not for Bangladeshis. I'm sorry, I'm not liberal enough to say, we can bring in a few Bangladeshis. It's not all right. They will take our jobs. They will take our livelihoods. They will take our land. And they will challenge our way of life. We have to put an end to this. Look at what Mamata Banerjee has done in Bengal. Look at what generations of Congress leaders did to Assam. They just changed the whole area. Today you go to large parts of Bengal, large parts of Assam, is full of infiltrators. And these are the vote banks of Congress party and Mamata Banerjee. For their vote banks, do you want to lose your way of life? For their politics, for their selfish interests, do you want future generations, do you want your children to lose their identity in their own country? And so if you believe today that you're rich enough and wealthy enough to ensure nothing will happen to you, well, it will impact you. And I wanted to therefore begin a nationwide poll on whether you're pro or anti-infiltration. Spread this video. I am asking the people of our great nation to take a strong position on whether you are pro or anti-infiltration. Make this a subject of discussion in your drawing rooms, in your cafes. Discuss whether you're pro or anti-infiltration. Ask yourself whether you will employ an infiltrator. And see what's happening in our country. Today, while reacting to a plea in relation to 5 missing Rohingyas, the Chief Justice of India said, do you want us to roll out a red carpet for them? This was a historic position taken by the Chief Justice of India, who questioned the petitioners in the strongest words, saying if there is no legal status of a refugee and somebody is an infiltrator or an intruder and enters illegally, do we have to have an obligation to keep that fellow here? Fantastic. I support the Chief Justice of India. This is the whole battle. It's a battle for our country. The Supreme Court is basically saying that if you have dug a tunnel and crossed the fence and entered India illegally, now you say, I have entered. The laws must apply to me. Why should the laws apply to an infiltrator? Why should the rights apply to an infiltrator? Did the infiltrator follow the rules while infiltrating into my country and threatening my existence? Ladies and gentlemen, the problem is that when even the court is asking you to take a position on infiltration, there are many of you who believe that infiltration is an issue which will not impact you. It will, ladies and gentlemen. And the Trinamool Congress, for example, which is going in for elections in Bengal, is so scared that Kalyan Banerjee of the Trinamool Congress said that all judges should not make loose comments, and went on to say judges are making comments to increase their TRPs.
देखिए, उनका टिप्पणी का जवाब हम नहीं देंगे. उनका टिप्पणी का जवाब देना हमारा शोभा नहीं मिलता है. चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया है. लेकिन हम एक बात बोलूं, जो सब जज को कोई लूज कमेंट करना नहीं चाहिए. पहले जो था हमारा इंडियन जुडिशियरी में, जज लोग कम बात करते थे और जजमेंट के जो बोलना है वो बोलते थे. अभी क्या हो गया, पूरा टेंडेंसी बदल गया. आजकल जज लोग ज्यादा बात करते हैं टीआरपी बढ़ाने के लिए, जजमेंट नहीं देते हैं. दैट इज द होल डिफिकल्टी.
Kalyan Banerjee should realize that his entire party's politics is based on Bangladeshi infiltrators. He does not have the guts or the courage to say that he's against Bangladeshi infiltrators. If he or his leader has the guts or courage, let them make a statement and say we are against infiltrators. Will they say that? Apply that cardinal principle on anyone you meet and ask them, are you pro or anti-infiltrators? Ladies and gentlemen, some people say there are 20 million illegal Bangladeshi infiltrators in our country. Personally, if you ask me, I think that number is much, much less than the reality. Data is suggesting 2 crore. I believe it could be 3 crore, 4 crore. There are infiltrators everywhere. Mizoram, Manipur, Assam, Delhi. Ask yourself, and when you employ people, ask them, are you from India? Are you from Bharat? Ask them to show you their Aadhaar cards and have those Aadhaar cards verified to make sure they are not fake Aadhaar cards, because that's also doing the rounds these days. The broad issue is this: can we make infiltration into a national issue? If we care about the future of this country, if you care about the future generations of this country, if you are concerned about what India will be like in 2030, 2040, and progressively into 2050, today is the day. This is the time to make it a subject. And therefore, once again, while wrapping up, I'll say, this is not about S.I.R. It is about infiltration. This is not about politics, ladies and gentlemen, and politicians. This is about you. Let's debate.